It's one of the most sophisticated hit songs of the 70s, but why are we still studying it all these years later? Let's talk about that. Hey kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Over my many years as a guitar teacher and touring musician, I've learned thousands of songs, and they've all taught me something that stuck with me and helped me along the way. Mastering tunes makes us better players, and that's why every guitarist should learn Peg by Steely Dan. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Released back in 1977, Asia by Steely Dan remains one of the greatest records ever recorded by anybody. Just don't call it yacht rock.
And what genre is that?
Yacht rock.
I tell you what don't you go f*** yourself?
Yikes. Peg became one of the biggest hits off the album, and if you master it, there's so much stuff you can add to your playing. There's a lot we can learn from it, but you're going to get even more out of this video if you check out the extended and ad-free cut of this video, which is only available on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. People are calling it the greatest place on the entire internet and a potential cult, and you can join up for even just $1 a month. It's going to get you access to nearly 700 exclusive posts with bonus videos, backing tracks, downloadable tabs, and a community of awesome people just like yourself. So don't delay, sign up today. I'll see you over there. It's such a classy tune, I figure I might as well bust out some things that are nice. Today I'm going to be playing my Les Paul Custom, my Ernie Ball Music Man Luke 3, and this glorious green machine, my Suhr Modern T. And I'll be playing those bad Larrys through my Synergy Syn 50 head using a couple of different modules. And for today's video, I'm mostly going to be using the B-Man module, which is like their bassman, as well as the Z-Rec by Dr. Z. I'll be using a couple pedals too, I'll talk about those when I get there. Alright kids, let's get into it. Sounds expensive. Yeah, tone-wise, you can play this on a Les Paul or a Strat or a Tele or whatever. Just make sure whatever you're using has good low output pickups on it. Try to find like an old Fender style amp and you're probably going to be good to go. Add a little compression up front for some extra squash on the tone. And if you want a little bit of texture, try adding in a little bit of flange. So as we go through the parts of this song, I gotta remind you guys, this is some really dense stuff, and I'm allowing myself a little bit of a margin for error in some of these chord voicings and stuff. Fortunately for you and I have the spirit of Michael McDonald here to guide me and let me know if I'm doing things right. Isn't that right, Michael? Thanks, Michael. The intro of this song has some high dollar chords moving in a chromatic fashion. Let's check this out. So they're using two different types of chords here, and the price tag on these things would blow your mind. First one that we use here is like a major 7 add 9 sound. So that's your first grip. And then after that, you're going to take that root note and go down a half step and give it the Jimi Hendrix chord. In this case, this is an F sharp 7 sharp 9. It's just those two grips moving down in half steps. Now you can learn a little bit of finger independence here whenever you're switching between those grips. Your first two fingers are just going to be doing the same thing, just moving down a fret at a time. But these two guys right here are just going to be swapping places. Check it out. Then I move this grip down and just flip them. Move the grip down and flip them. And so on. There's an overdub guitar that's doubling the keyboard parts on top of that. Let's check this part out. So just like those intro chord grips, it's two different ideas moving down the neck. Now the first one here takes place over the G major 7 add 9, and it's this figure right here. You can see the blues backbone here, right? It's kind of picking out the notes of the little blues riff one at a time. And then when it goes to the F sharp 7, sharp 9, we have this lick. What's illogical about this is that this chord right here features a major third in it, but our lick features a flat third. But that's the cool thing about these altered dominant chords. That's what makes them sound so jazzy. This chord has a regular third like a major chord, and a flat third like a minor chord does. So you can kind of get away with playing either type of third against these Hendrix chords, as Hendrix often did. So after those two licks, we're just going to move down one whole step, then down another whole step. That's something Steely Dan does all the time with their music. It's play stuff that's technically a little bit out, but it's there to add tension, which makes the resolution that much sweeter later on. You'll see a lot of this throughout the song, especially when we get to the solo. You know, kids, your good buddy Uncle Ben here is once again going to be appearing as a performer and instructor at the Woodshed Guitar Experience in beautiful Crossville, Tennessee. The lineup this year is insane. They got Paul Gilbert, Dan Huff, a bunch of my buddies, so many incredible players. It's going to be several days full of jams, festivities, shows, masterclasses, and so much more. And you can get $200 off your admission by using this here promo code on that there website. Sign up today, get $200 off, and I'll see you at the shed. When you learn the verse of the song, there's a lot you can pick up about spicing up a plain Jane chord progression and adding some awesome overdubs on top of it. Check this out. I forgot to mention this earlier. A couple of years ago, I did a full lesson here on my channel on how to play all the chord grips throughout the song. So if you're looking for like a really detailed instructional on fret by fret, note by note breakdowns on all those chords, be sure to check that one out. I'll put a link to that down in the video description. And I'll put up all the charts on that on the Patreon page too. So be sure to grab those. So here's the cool thing about this verse part. Even though it sounds like this super high interest rate chord buffet, it's all based on something that you've heard a million times before. Your regular old 1-4-5 blues changes. You could simplify this down into like the Jack Johnson version of this tune and just play those major chords on 1, 4, and 5, and you'd really hear the underlying structure of what's going on in the verses. Check this out. They're the exact same progression in kind of the same way that my little homeboy Turkey here is technically the same animal as like a Doberman Pinscher. It's kind of the same. I wonder what Donald Fagen would say if he heard me Jack Johnsonizing his songs.
Why don't you go fuck yourself?
Yeah, probably. So when you have that 1-4-5 kind of outline here, you can see what they're doing is dressing it up by, instead of just playing a 1, it's like a 4-1 on each of these chords. To me, it's really awesome to learn how you can take something as common as a blues progression and make it sound completely unique, make it sound like Steely Dan, right? This is why we still study this stuff. It's the way that they can dress up things and make them completely unrecognizable, even though you've heard it a million times before. Okay, I can't do a video on this song and not bust out the old big guitar here and talk about Chuck Rainey's work. This is my Suhr J Classic Antique. I want to use this at a few parts throughout this tune. Chuck, like any good bass player, knows when to be busy and when not to. Now, the chord stabs that are going on are pretty basic rhythmically, right? And I think if he was a boring bass player, that's what he would have played. But instead, he kind of heard that as a very spacious thing that there was room to move around on top of without making the mix too busy. He follows those changes with this really cool riffy thing. Check this out. That's essentially what it's got going on. Very Motown sounding, right? Little octaves. And then that lick that highlights the third and fifth of every chord that he goes by. One of my favorite things about these songs is hearing how they fit guitars into really dense arrangements like this. You'll notice there's a guitar part in here that's really small. It doesn't really take up a lot of space or sound like much on its own, but it fits in the mix in such a groovy way. Let's check this out. You'll notice how every one of those licks highlights the root of every one of those chords. So here's our G position, really targeting that G note, as well as the 6, in this case the E note. Really gives it a little bit more jazzy quality by emphasizing the 6 in those chords. Dig that sound. Two simple ideas. Following that 1-4-5 progression, just like everything else, just changing the scale as the chords go by. Kind of the foundation of a lot of jazzy thought. Isn't that right, Michael? Yeah, I thought so. You're gonna notice throughout the course of this video that there's parts that I'll play with a pick and there's parts that I'll play with my fingers and also parts that I'll play with both. This is one of those skills that I never really intentionally practiced. I just picked it up by learning songs that utilize this, and it's become a permanent part of my playing. Now, whenever I do this, I'm using my thumb and first finger to hang onto the pick like usual and using my free fingers here to pluck the strings. You gotta be really careful to watch your balance and not let the picked note really override the plucked notes or vice versa. But there's gonna come times during some of these massive chords that you're gonna need to ditch the pick altogether and use your thumb for a bass note and pluck everything above it with your other arm hand fingers. Now, whenever I do that, I'm taking the pick and just stowing it within my middle finger, like that right there. It's kind of like a sleight of hand trick, you know? Now you see it, now you don't. I can use that technique to go in between fingerstyle and pick playing really quickly. Really valuable skill. It doesn't matter what kind of music you play, whether it's country or western. That's a really handy one, and this song will help you master it. And now we get to the chorus, which is like chord salad supreme. Kind of like the verse, you could strip this down into being really simple chords that you're probably familiar with, or take it all the way and dress them up like they do, and learn a lot about expanding your chord vocabulary and the impact it can make on how a chord progression sounds. Pretty freaking dense stuff, right? Be sure to check out the isolated vocal tracks here on YouTube as well if you want to have your mind blown. Michael McDonald stacked up some crazy harmonies on top of this. Michael, if you're out there hearing this, you've got the voice of a big old doughy soft angel. You're welcome. So chord-wise, you'll recognize the first two from the verse. And then we have these guys. So this is kind of standing in place for a plain Jane A minor and E minor. They're just real gussied up. So if we made that more simple, it'd sound like C to G, A minor to E minor. Back to you. You can hear it's still in there, but the chord voicings are just way cooler. Check this out. So against A minor, if we're thinking of A as our root, we have a flat 7 here, it's a G note. We have a flat 3rd like a minor chord usually does. And then this D note here would be an 11. So this is like an A minor 7 add 11 sound. Very cool. And then for the E minor, again, if you're thinking of E as the root here, we got A, which is an 11th. There's that 11 in there again. These chords go to 11. D, that's our flat 7. And there's another root up top, our E note. The next set of chords sounds like A to C, G to F sharp, but the way that they play them is a little bit cooler. Check this out. Whoa, okay, so here's our grip that we're using for A, and then C major 7. Hear how you get that cool movement in the bass when you play that inversion rather than root position A? Instead of just playing J and G, make it G major 6. There's a lot of 6s in here. Again, that's that jazz vocabulary sneaking into their tunes. And then F sharp 7. After this, B minor 7 to the Hendrix chord like we used earlier, E7 sharp 9. And then I love these. So this is A minor 7. Now, typically, this is where you're expecting to hear like a D7 to lead you back to the 1 chord G, but instead they play, oh yeah, it's the 70s chord. This is all over yacht rock.
Go fuck yourself.
Sorry, Donald, geez. But what this is it's a C triad with a D in the bass. And it's so much cooler sounding than this.
Wouldn't you go fuck yourself?
That's way more better. So over the top of those chords, there's a guitar overdub that sounds completely different, and the harmony here is crazy. I actually just figured this out last night. I've always wondered what was going on with these chords, and I've never seen any accurate transcriptions of them online, so I had to figure them out. There's just this really weird like sheen on top of everything, this really glossy, bright guitar on top of these chords. It's doing nothing but extensions. It's like playing everything but the obvious notes. Check this out. Like, what is that, right? Sounds nothing like the chord progression. This grip up here that he plays against the C to G part. Again, if you're thinking of C, he's playing nothing but 7, 3rd, 5th. Your fingers might tell you right now that you're playing an E minor. But this is something that you've got to learn as a guitar player. Don't listen to what shape your fingers are telling you. Listen to what the harmony is telling. Ask what the bass note thinks of these notes, not what your finger grip is. These guys that are taking place over the A to E part really make the harmony crazy. My grips would be telling me right now that I'm playing C sus2, D sus2. If I asked my fingers, that's what they would be telling me. But if I asked the harmony, it's further reflecting that minor add 11 tonality. Really cool. So it gets really fishy whenever it gets to the A to C major 7 part, he plays this. This right here is like a big A sus2, root, 2/5, and that 2 up there, standing in for the 3rd. That would make it sound major. And then this grip. So again, against C, which we got to think of as our bass note here, we got root, 3rd, 6, root. So this grip right here, again, if I ask my fingers or just ask my ears on their own, I would assume this is part of an A minor. But you gotta ask the bass note what he thinks, and you'll hear it as that C major 6 sound. Very cool. Over the G to F sharp part, he plays this. Just kind of a little lick. And then he's playing a good portion of an F sharp 7 chord. Over the B minor to E7 sharp 9, he plays this. Again, kind of a lick. We can see how he's getting in the B, and he's got the 5th right there too. And then this just looks like an E minor triad, but it extends that E7 harmony a little bit by featuring that flat 3rd in there. Very jazzy stuff. And then over the A minor 7 to like D11 part right there, he plays this. And once again, my hands and my ears are telling me two completely different things. Because if you ask my mitts, this is E minor, right? Root 5th, flat 3rd. Sounds like E minor. But if you're thinking of A minor as being what you're playing against, you got 9th, 5th, flat 7, kind of making this to an A minor 9 kind of sound altogether. Very cool. And then this guy, like I would think of that as being a C triad with a D on top, but it's not, because D is the bass note right now. It's once again a C triad with a D in the bass. Isn't that sick? At the end of the chorus, they have this 5-chord progression that they play that just kind of acts like the glue between the chorus and the return of the intro part. Sounds like this. F sharp minor 7, B minor 7, E minor 7, B minor 7, and then you're at C major 7. You know what? Congratulations. If you made it this far in the video, you really want to learn this song. And if that's the case, I really want to teach it to you. I'll put up the chord charts for free over on Patreon. So be sure to click the link down there in the video description to go find the free charts that I made for this years ago. You don't have to sign up or anything. Just give it a visit, check the place out, see if you like what you see, and maybe you join my cult. And yeah, of course, we're going to talk about that legendary slap part that Chuck put in the chorus of this song. It's so cool. Apparently he wasn't supposed to do that at all. He just kind of snuck it by the guys and they liked how it sounded, so it stuck. Some pretty classic slap fundamentals with those octaves in there. You're slapping the low note, you're popping the high note, and there's a lot of syncopation going on. I'm certain I'm not playing these parts exactly right, so forgive me there. But you'll notice how he's not really adding a ton to the harmony. It's a lot of root note stuff. Those chords are so dense, they don't need more extensions on top of them. They need a solid foundation, which is when a smart bass player, like Chuck, will come to the rescue. Playing bass is all about knowing how to play it well with others. You gotta know when to be busy, you gotta know when to be simple, and not have any kind of ego whatsoever about it. And now, of course, we got to talk about Jay Graydon's legendary guitar solo on this song. I've heard numerous people refer to this as their favorite solo of all time. There's definitely a ton that we can learn from this one. Right out of the gate, he's got this heinous bend that like destroyed my fingers to learn. But there's so many cool phrasing tricks that he uses throughout this. You gotta dig deep on this one. Forgot to mention, I've switched over to the Dr. Z Z-Rec module on the Synergy, and it's got a little bit of dirt to it, and I'm boosting that out front with the Suhr KOKO Boost, which is a really awesome pedal if you want to conjure up some nice vintage, warm, mid-rangey overdrive on your tone. Really great sounding pedal. So this solo starts off with an extremely unorthodox double bend on the B and G strings. And even worse, it's a pre-bend, so you kind of have to blindly bend both strings up a whole step and hope that you nailed it. This is murder, and this is really unusual. I hope you're using light gauge strings for this. Now, what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the F note here on the B string with my middle finger, and this is the real trick to making this work, putting my first finger behind it for leverage also. I was trying to do this initially with 2 fingers like this. It just does not work that way. But if you pile your first and second fingers on the B string and push that guy up a whole step, odds are if you let your ring finger go up too on the G string, it'll be at about where you need it to be. This is really critical to make this work. But I gotta warn you, you only get so many of these a day, and filming the solo playthrough at the top of the video, I used most of mine up. I am feeling it for sure. These things are brutal on your hands. So if you feel any discomfort while you're running through these sections with me, give it a break, pick it up again tomorrow. So hard. That's close enough. So you can hear how I pre-bent it there and hit just the B string and then took it up and down with the G right there. But you'll notice how my first and second finger are bending in tandem. You gotta use the buddy system here. Team lift, never lift alone. It's gonna make that bend a lot easier. And then he just makes it even harder by doing it up here as well. Now, if you want to learn this note for note really meticulously, there's 2 resources I recommend you check out. For one, Jay Graydon himself did a transcription of this on his website. I'll put that in the video description down there so you can check that out and get his notes on it. I noticed he didn't notate some of the hammer-ons and pull-offs, but it'll get you the notes just fine. If you want to see it in action, there's an amazing video over on my buddy Tim Pierce's channel that shows him close up playing through the whole thing and walking Tim through it as well. Really awesome watch, so be sure to check that out and tell Tim I said what's up. Tim rules. Now there's a cool thing going on here with the harmony of what Jay is playing in this solo, because at this point when he's doing all those crazy bends, it's over the C to G part, right? But what he's starting off on heavily features this F note. Now if you ask G what F is, it's a flat 7. And in conjunction with that major add 9 kind of sound, it ends up giving us this really cool, funky, kind of a G9 sound altogether. This is cool because even though what we've been playing has sounded in the key of G, this particular voicing of G doesn't feature any kind of 7th in it. In other words, it doesn't tell us if it's major 7 with the F sharp note or G7 with the F note in it, the flat 7. It's just kind of an empty space in the harmony. And as a creative soloist, it's up for you to decide what kind of 7th it is. This is the cool thing about choosing scales over chords. Sometimes you can make decisions not only based on what's there in the chord, but what's not there. Chords are constantly giving you permission about what you can and can't do as the soloist. And an intelligent guy like Jay knows that. Yes, so much awesome stuff going by there. You know, one thing that I really like about that lick is the way that it targets notes that are in the C chord that it rolls around there. Now initially, that's against our G, but when it goes to this, is right when it lands in the C kind of section, the 4-chord section here. He's taken us up here to the 1, 2, 3, the 3rd of C. And then that right there, the G note, be the 5th of C. So he's given us a lot of nice chord tones there. This line has some really cool features, kind of taking those dyads down the neck. And then this lick almost reminds me of some like Mastodon stuff, right? He's doing some hybrid picking here, pulling off to that open G as he climbs up the neck. And getting that sound of that middle finger popping on that G is essential to making this sound right. If you do it all picked, it doesn't really sound the same. It's got to have that accent that you get when you pop that G with the middle finger. I think your mom knows something about popping that G with the middle finger, doesn't she? There's a little bit of chromatic kind of nonsense in there that's really neat. Just kind of gives it a little bit of tension. To my rock and roll ears, it's kind of a Randy Rhoads thing, right? Taking that lick and just moving up chromatically like that. I like how that sounds. It sounds like that lick is getting just a little bit off the tracks, like he's got 3 wheels in the ditch there for just a second. I love that element of like chaos and unpredictability in the solo. Okay, the fast lick that he plays there is against the 5 chord. Let's check this out. You'll notice as I navigate that it's not necessarily a lot of picking. There's a lot of hammer-ons and pull-ups here. That's what I think of as the first lick. Now to help me navigate that string change, you'll notice that middle finger is once again coming into play here. I see Jay do that too. After this, I also use the middle finger right there to help me cross over to the high E string. What a cool way to get out of that solo. Okay, so these licks, I love how he keeps referencing that G note on top here. A really strong thing you can do in your solo, just take whatever the root note of the chord is and keep playing it. It's a way to create a lot of resolution. We talked about some of the chaos in the solo. This is the opposite of that. This is that nice little send-off on your way out the door. That's a cool one. It's taking advantage of all the things that make the guitar sound so awesome. These slides, these bends, the pull-offs, all the things that make this sound like a guitar. If you took those away and you just played these all as like flat, expressionless notes, maybe like this.
What do you go yourself?
That solo is legendary for a reason. Jay is a song arranging and writing genius and incredible guitar player, and this solo is just one example of what makes him so awesome. He also plays some really rad stuff over the end of the tune during the fade out. What I like about this is he's got a good balance of flash and melody. Some of it's like kind of shreddy, and then he'll just drop right into playing a really nice melody that works with the vocals. That's a really slick one over the G section. So there you go, guys, a complete breakdown on what makes this Steely Dan classic worth learning all these years later. Really, when you learn this stuff, what I always tell people is it makes your ears bigger, you know? Whenever I first learned this stuff, I was playing these chord shapes and I just couldn't hear them. It's like I couldn't hear how that fit into a G chord or whatever. It just didn't make any sense to me. But whenever I learned the songs and I started to hear how they worked in context of everybody else with the keys and the bass and the other guitar and the vocals, it's like it all made sense. And now I hear those extensions different ways. When I hear a chord, I don't just hear what my fingers tell me. I hear what could be possibly happening in the bass to imply what kind of chord it's really a part of. And that's the kind of growth that you only get if you get out of your comfort zone and learn stuff like this. You'll never encounter these kind of chord voicings in like a Green Day song, for example. No offense to Green Day, I freaking love Green Day. But yeah, it's just a different part of the language, and the only way you'll get exposed to it is by diving headfirst into it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold right here for you guys. And if you want to get your hands on that super extended ad-free cut of this video, and I think you do, be sure to check out that Patreon page over at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. There are so many things waiting for you over there, a community of awesome people just like yourself, so many backing tracks, so many bonus videos, all kinds of great things. So I look forward to seeing you over there. Now, as you go through your week, I want to give you a little assignment. I want you to do something awesome for somebody. Something small. It doesn't have to be a huge act of kindness, but it's amazing to see what a small act of goodwill will do for somebody's day. I'm sure it's happened to you. Somebody's done something that might have been insignificant to them, but it brightened up your day, improved your mood, whatever. We can change the world one act of kindness at a time, but it's up to us. So if you find yourself in an opportunity where you can do something good for somebody this week, do it to it. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but as for myself, I'm gonna give my fingers a little bit of a rest after doing all those bends. I recommend you guys get away from the computer machine and grab your favorite guitar and get to work on this awesome tune. Let's click it. More picking. Oh.